Hey y'all, welcome back to All About April. I am so excited about today's episode. And I say this every episode, but y'all, this book right here, when I say it's going to be in my top books of 2024, I am 1000% sure of that. I cannot put this book down, okay? If you have not already, make sure you subscribe, okay? And let's just go ahead and get into it because it's way too juicy for me to not tell you about. First off, let me tell you how I get access to this book. So my friend Shan had read it, but my friend Jazz, hey y'all, hey, she's like, I saw this book that on Goodreads that you rated, and I think I want to read it. And so I was like, hold up, like, this sounds good. I stopped reading whatever I was reading and I went right on ahead and hopped into what they were reading. And when I tell you I could not put this book down, it was everything. It was everything. And what book am I talking about? Soul Ties by Miss Candice. Now, let me go ahead and tell you right now, I am most definitely going to be giving some spoilers. So if that is not your thing, go on ahead, click off, read the book, come back so that you can also participate with us. Y'all, this book was so well written, and there have been books where I start off and I'm like, oh my gosh, this book was so good, and then it falls off. That never happens with this particular book. And I was just so enthralled within it that all of it. So let me go ahead and ask you a few questions before I get into it. Number one, would you ever give your significant other a pass to be with someone else? And it could be that's just y'all thing. It could be that you're ill or they're ill, whatever. Number two, y'all, you don't really know people. You only know what people want you to know. When you hop on social media and you see all these pages and you're liking and you're sharing things with your friends, y'all, you're only doing that based on what people have allowed you to see in their lives. You don't know what they do outside of those postings. Yes, it looks beautiful and glorious, but you don't know if they have a dungeon in the basement of their house. You don't know if they only spend one day of the month together and that's the day that they happen to show you. And you don't know if like these are things that they do every single day and they're only highlighting that one thing. There could be so many other glorious things that they're like, maybe I don't want to post that because it could be a little bit overwhelming, or I don't want to seem like I'm bragging. You don't know people. And this book definitely reminds us that you only know what people want you to know. And then as I got into the book, by the way, it centers around three people: Sienna, Leighton, and Jihad. And Leighton and Jihad, they're married, but they don't have, on the outside looking in, it looks like they have this great marriage. But in actuality, they don't. Why? Because Leighton has given her husband a pass to be with another person, another woman. And why? Well, she's on bed rest. She's had multiple miscarriages and she can't engage with her husband the way that she would like to. And he refuses to take the pass until one day. And he ends up at this place called Pandora's, and guess who he meets? A single woman named Sienna. Sienna has left her cheating social media influencer boyfriend. She gets a gold envelope on her car and she decides to take a chance and just be her for the night. And they have this pull to each other. Think of the name of the book, Soul Ties. They have this pull to each other and they ultimately become intimate at Pandora's. They leave and think that they're never going to see each other again, but lo and behold, what does fate have for them? Fate has that Sienna ends up becoming Leighton's doula. And they are tied together because Leighton and Sienna have both had multiple miscarriages. And Leighton, while she cannot connect with any other doulas, she lovingly connects with Sienna. At the same time, Sienna and Jihad have this pull to each other, and they have no clue where this pull is coming from. They have no way of understanding how to disconnect from it. And it leads for them to become intimate again under Jihad's roof. So this is going to lead to a lot of complications. But these complications also remind us of the gray areas in relationships. And that to me was a huge part of this book. We love to, as I mentioned, you think you know people, but you really don't. And I remember I was seeing this guy once, and he was like, you look at relationships black and white. And at the time, I was just like, no. And now looking back, like, yes, he was right. I've, thankfully grown from that. But relationships do have a lot of gray areas. And in these gray areas, how do you manage that? And that was something that, Leighton, Sienna, and Jihad all had to, work through to ultimately get to the point where they could be happy. It's unfortunate that they couldn't be happy in the places where they were, when the book originally took place, or when you first saw the book take place from the very beginning. I will also say that there were a lot of meddling family members and friends. And we have to be very careful of what we explain or what we tell to family and friends when we are, having these moments. Because when we forgive, the family or the friends, they typically don't. All right. And that was something that happened many times in the book with Farrah, who was Leighton's bestie. And I just felt like Farrah definitely overstepped her boundaries, but Leighton also never corrected her friend due to her own insecurities. What would it be like for her to, let her friend know that, you're doing too much, and this is my husband, and this is, my maid, and this is my home, and you need to respect it. Same thing for the parents. In particular, Sienna's mom. Sienna's mom was definitely overstepping boundaries, by calling the ex-boyfriend to come over, constantly asking her when she was going to get married and have kids. And as someone who is, in my late 30s, people constantly ask me, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? Like, why is that your business? Who told you that was a goal that I wanted for myself? You are placing, life values on me that you don't even know if that fits into my life. So I really, really liked how Miss Candice highlighted these issues within the book. And it really, really made us question, how do we interact with our friends? Do we correct them appropriately? Do we correct our family members appropriately? How do we set healthy boundaries with the people in our lives? Even Jihad, his dad, like, constantly meddling and telling him what he needed to do, even at the expense of Jihad's happiness. And in order to be able to find that happiness, you do have to, sometimes cut the cord, or be very, very strict with how you interact with, those that we love. But the other big piece of this is the connection. And I thought it was very, very interesting, and this is a big, big spoiler, that, Jihad and Sienna, they couldn't leave each other alone. And it was, they really couldn't understand why that was the case, but they truly were meant for each other. And this leads me to wonder, like, how many people are in relationships with people and they're just doing it because, well, I made the age, so I might as well go on ahead and do it. I'm 30, I'm 35, I gotta have kids, my egg's wearing away. I want to make sure that I check that thing off my list, but it's not with the person that you really want to be with. You're just fulfilling a duty. And I know that some people are going to say that love is something that is, really, really new with relationships. But who wants to spend the rest of their lives with someone that they're not happy with? That is a huge, huge part of, committing to someone. You want to share your life with someone who does have many of the same life values or that you just simply enjoy life with. And unfortunately, that was not the case with Sienna and her ex, Amiri. And you could clearly see that Leighton and Jihad had outgrown that part of their relationship with each other. And for many people, they're never honest enough to accept the fact that that part of their lives has passed. And I talked about this in my previous YouTube video about quitting, when I quit National Board. And a lot of people think that, quitting is a bad thing. No, sometimes ending exactly where it is to be able to maintain peace and to be obedient to your will of life. Like, you got to do that. You got to be able to let it go when it's no longer working. And ultimately, something happens, I don't want to tell you because I still want you to read the book, between Jihad and Leighton where they ultimately do cut the ties. They realize, like, this is not working. Like, I can't be with you. You don't respect me. You do not see me as your partner. And we're done. Like, done. Cannot go past this. And that ultimately leads Jihad and Sienna back together. You would think. But initially, Sienna is like, And Jihad is like, I trust the timing of my life. I trust that it will bring us back together at the right time. Y'all, I thought that was so powerful to read that part, because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am not very patient whenever it comes to things. I be like, God, when? God, when I'm going to get the raise? God, when my student loans going to get paid off? God, when I'm going to get my tax returns? God, when she gonna put these books out? Like, I am so for real, and I want the answer to be immediately. But there is something about the wait. That time in between the wait is so powerful, because the growth that happens between the then and the moment where you actually receive the reward, it's so beautiful, and you don't even realize that it is something that you were waiting for. And when you get to the beauty of what you've waited for, you're like, I could have waited forever if this is what I'm getting. And that's really what I felt for Sienna and Jihad when they finally get their moment. And I felt the same way for Leighton, like she was able to get her moment too. But there is something that happens at the end, because not only do they get their moment, they get that special piece of their lives that they had been missing for such a long time. And it leads me to wonder how many people really you're missing that moment because you're not with the person you're supposed to be with. And I know, like, I have been in relationships with people where I have fought to try to make it work. And, when I finally cut the ties, it's like, it's pain at that moment. But the piece that I get down the line, like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I should have been done this because this was definitely not it. And I truly feel that Jihad and Sienna felt that way with each other. That soul tie that, constantly urged them to be together. It's what led them ultimately to this level of happiness that they succumb to. And then for Sienna, she gets her happiness. Leighton, she gets her happiness, in her own way, with her person as well. And so I think Miss Candice did a great job of tying all of that in, allowing us to see that, yes, relationships have gray areas. Yes, you really don't know people. And it's okay for people to have different views and different ways that they choose to be intimate in their lives. It's okay for us to not meddle in people's lives. We can offer, advice, but people also have the right to choose not to accept or participate in what they give to us. And then finally, just truly accepting the timing of your life. I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons in that book for me. Really, really trusting and knowing that, God's timing is always best, even if it's not on my time. Because, child, my time is always yesterday. But I really, really, really enjoyed this book. And let me tell you something. I tried to give as much of a review without giving away too much. When I tell you there were scenes in this book where I literally hopped in that group chat at 6:00 in the morning talking about what is happening. I need emotional support because I know that for some people they may think, I don't know if this stuff happens. This stuff happens all the time. But remember, people only tell you what they want you to know. So take some time, read this book, allow yourself to truly engage with what Miss Candice is giving you. Allow yourself to truly understand that there are gray areas in relationships. And then finally, just allow yourself to see the beauty in two people who connect in a way that is surreal, and they just allow fate to do what it does. And that's what you're going to get with Soul Ties by Miss Candice. So I'm so glad that y'all enjoyed me on this journey today. If you've read this book, go on ahead and let me know in the comments what you felt about it. I know that it is a hot piece, or has been a hot piece on TikTok as well, but it's truly a beauty. Be prepared for me to talk about it in my year-end wrap-up as well. But nonetheless, yes, read Soul Ties by Miss Candice. I promise you will not be disappointed in this read. All right? So again, thank y'all for joining me so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be back next week with another book, and I can't wait to share it with you. Bye, y'all. Have a good evening.